Before we dive in, comment where in the world you're watching from and don't forget to click subscribe. Liam's back slams against the wall. Theo cages him in, one hand beside his head, the other gripping his hip. 3 months of denial crumble as Theo's eyes drop to the bulge, straining against Liam's jeans. Your mouth says straight, Theo growls, but your body's telling a different story. Before we begin, if you want to hear uncensored stories, the ones too hot for YouTube, check out my Patreon in the description. Now let's get into it. The apartment listing had been almost too good to be true. 2-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, rent that wouldn't completely drain Liam's bank account, available immediately. After 2 weeks of sleeping on his sister's couch and dodging her increasingly pointed questions about his failed engagement, Liam had jumped at it without asking too many questions. He should have asked more questions. The guy who answered the door when Liam showed up for the viewing was not what he expected. Theo Brennan stood at least 6'4", built like he spent every free hour in a gym, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and green eyes that seemed to look right through Liam's carefully constructed walls. He wore a simple black t-shirt that did nothing to hide the breadth of his shoulders or the muscles in his arms, and faded jeans that hung low on narrow hips. Liam was 26, average height, with the kind of lean build that came from running rather than lifting weights. His light brown hair was perpetually messy despite his best efforts, and he'd been told more than once that his blue eyes were his best feature. Standing in front of Theo, he felt small in a way that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. "You must be Liam," Theo said, his voice a deep rumble that Liam felt in his chest. "Come on in." The apartment was clean and surprisingly well decorated for a bachelor pad. Hardwood floors, decent furniture, actual artwork on the walls instead of movie posters. The kitchen was small but functional, and through the doorway Liam could see a living room with a couch that looked comfortable enough to sleep on if needed. "This is the common area," Theo explained, gesturing around. "Kitchen, living room, bathrooms down the hall. Your room would be that one." He pointed to a closed door. "Mine's the one at the end. I work construction, so I'm usually out by 6 in the morning and back around 5. Pretty quiet otherwise." Liam nodded, trying to focus on the practical details instead of the way Theo's presence seemed to fill the entire space. "What about overnight guests or anything like that?" Something flickered in Theo's eyes, too quick for Liam to read. "I don't really do overnight guests. You?" "No," Liam said quickly. "Just got out of a relationship, actually." "Not looking for anything like that right now." "Understood." Theo crossed his arms over his chest, and Liam tried very hard not to notice the way the motion made his biceps strain against his sleeves. "Rent's due on the 1st, utilities split down the middle. I'm pretty laid back as long as you're not throwing parties or leaving dishes in the sink for days. I can do that. Then the room's yours if you want it." Liam should have taken more time to think about it. Should have considered the implications of living with someone who made his pulse quicken just by standing there. Should have recognized the warning signs and how aware he was of every detail of Theo's appearance. Instead, he said yes. Moving in took all of 3 hours. Liam didn't have much, just what he'd managed to salvage from the apartment he'd shared with his ex-fiancée. Theo helped carry boxes up the stairs with an ease that made Liam feel inadequate with his own struggling. And by early afternoon, everything was stacked in Liam's new room, waiting to be unpacked. "Beer," Theo offered, appearing in the doorway with 2 bottles. "You look like you could use one." Liam took it gratefully, the cold glass a relief against his palm. "Thanks, and thanks for helping with the boxes." "No problem." Theo leaned against the door frame, taking a long drink from his own bottle. "So what happened with the relationship, if you don't mind me asking?" Liam minded, but something about Theo's easy manner made the words come out anyway. "We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 6 months. She decided she wanted someone more ambitious, someone with better career prospects than a junior graphic designer." "Her loss," Theo said simply. "Maybe." Liam looked around at the boxes surrounding him, at this new space that would be his home for the foreseeable future. "Feels more like my failure. Trust me, if she couldn't see what she had, that's on her, not you. Theo pushed off from the doorframe. I'll let you get settled. Let me know if you need anything. He left before Liam could respond, and Liam found himself staring at the empty doorway longer than he should have, his mind replaying the way Theo had said what she had. Like there was something obvious that Sarah had been too blind to see. Liam shook his head and turned to his boxes. He was reading too much into a simple comment. Theo was just being nice. That was all. The first week passed in a blur of adjustment. Liam learned Theo's routines quickly. The man was up every morning at 5:30, making coffee that was strong enough to strip paint. He'd shower, grab breakfast that usually consisted of protein and not much else, and be out the door by 6. True to his word, he returned around 5 most days, sometimes covered in dust and sweat from the job site. Liam worked from home 3 days a week and went into the office the other 2, which meant he was often alone in the apartment during the day. He'd use the time to settle in, to try to rebuild some sense of normalcy in his life. But increasingly, he found his thoughts drifting to his roommate. It wasn't anything Theo did specifically. He was exactly what he'd promised to be: quiet, respectful, easy to live with. They'd fall into comfortable conversations over dinner when their schedules aligned, talking about work and sports and nothing of real consequence. But Liam couldn't stop noticing things. The way Theo moved with unconscious grace despite his size. The sound of his voice, especially first thing in the morning when it was still rough from sleep. The rare smiles that transformed his face from intimidating to almost beautiful. And the way Theo would sometimes look at him, like he was seeing something Liam didn't want to acknowledge. 2 weeks in, Liam woke to sounds from the kitchen. He checked his phone. 6:30. Theo should have already left for work. Pulling on sweatpants and a t-shirt, Liam padded down the hall to investigate. Theo stood at the stove, shirtless, making what smelled like pancakes. His back was to Liam, giving him an unobstructed view of broad shoulders and a back ridged with muscle. Low-slung pajama pants revealed the dimples just above his ass, and Liam's mouth went dry. "Morning," Theo said without turning around. Somehow he'd known Liam was there. "Made too much batter. You want some?" Liam's brain short-circuited for a second before reconnecting. "Sure, thanks." He forced himself to move to the coffee pot, to pour a cup with hands that wanted to shake, to focus on anything except the expanse of skin on display. This was his roommate, his male roommate. He shouldn't be noticing these things. "No work today?" Liam managed, proud of how normal his voice sounded. "Saturday," Theo replied, flipping a pancake with practiced ease. "Usually sleep in, but old habits die hard." "Right. Saturday." Liam had lost track of the days. Theo plated the pancakes and turned around, and Liam discovered that the view from the front was even more distracting than the back. His chest was exactly as built as his arms suggested, with a trail of dark hair that disappeared beneath his waistband. Liam tore his eyes away before Theo could catch him staring. They ate at the small kitchen table, and Liam tried to concentrate on his food instead of the way Theo's throat worked when he swallowed, or the flex of his forearm when he cut his pancakes. This was getting ridiculous. He'd lived with a woman for 4 years without obsessing over every detail of her appearance. But that was different, a small voice whispered in his head. That was comfortable, familiar. This is something else entirely. "Got any plans for the day?" Theo asked, breaking into Liam's increasingly dangerous thoughts. "Not really. Maybe catch up on some freelance work." "You?" "Gym, probably. Then not much. Might watch the game if you want to join." The idea of spending more time with Theo, especially while Theo was likely to remain shirtless for the foreseeable future, seemed like a terrible idea. But Liam found himself nodding anyway. "Yeah, sure. Sounds good." Theo's smile was warm and genuine, and Liam felt something flutter in his chest that he absolutely refused to examine too closely. The days turned into weeks, and Liam's problem only got worse. He found himself hyper-aware of Theo's presence in the apartment, would listen for the sound of his key in the lock, for his footsteps in the hallway, for his voice even when he was on the phone in his room. He'd catch himself watching Theo when they shared the living room, tracking the way he moved, the way he laughed at something on TV, the way his hand looked wrapped around a beer bottle. And increasingly, Liam would realize Theo was watching him back, with an intensity that made his skin prickle with awareness. 3 weeks in, Liam had his first real crisis. He'd been working late in his room when he heard Theo come home from the gym. The shower turned on, and Liam tried to focus on the logo design he was working on, but his mind kept drifting to what was happening down the hall, to Theo standing under the spray, water running down that incredible body, hands soaping up all that skin. Liam's jeans grew uncomfortably tight, and he squeezed his eyes shut in mortification. This could not be happening. He was not getting hard thinking about his roommate, his male roommate. He was straight. He'd been engaged to a woman 6 months ago. This was just some weird reaction to the breakup, to sharing space with someone new, to stress. He repeated those lies to himself, even as his hand drifted south, even as he gave in to the pressure and took care of his problem with an efficiency born of shame. And when he came with Theo's name caught behind his teeth, he told himself it didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything. The lying got easier with practice. A month in, things came to a head over something completely mundane. Liam was in the kitchen making dinner when Theo came home. He heard the door open and close, heard Theo's heavy footsteps approaching. "Something smells good," Theo said, appearing in the kitchen doorway. "What are you making?" "Just pasta. Nothing fancy." Liam focused on stirring the sauce, not looking up. "There's plenty if you want some." Theo moved closer, close enough that Liam could smell sweat and sawdust, and something that was distinctly him. He reached past Liam to grab a glass from the cupboard, his arm brushing Liam's shoulder, and Liam froze. The contact lasted maybe 2 seconds, barely worth noticing, but Liam felt it like an electric shock, every nerve ending lighting up in response. Theo seemed to pause, his arm still extended, his body radiating heat at Liam's back. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Theo grabbed the glass and stepped away, and Liam could breathe again. "Thanks for dinner," Theo said, his voice rougher than usual. "I'm going to grab a shower first." He left, and Liam gripped the edge of the counter with white knuckles, his heart racing like he'd just run a marathon. This was getting out of control. He couldn't keep reacting this way to simple, innocent touches. Couldn't keep lying to himself about what these reactions meant. That night, they ate dinner in near silence, the air between them heavy with something Liam didn't want to name. Theo kept looking at him with those intense green eyes, and Liam kept looking away, afraid of what Theo might see if he looked back. "You okay?" Theo asked finally, setting down his fork. "You've been quiet lately." "Fine," Liam lied. "Just stressed with work." Theo studied him for a long moment. "You know you can talk to me, right? If something's bothering you?" "I know. Thanks." But Liam couldn't talk to him. Couldn't explain that the thing bothering him was Theo himself, was the way Liam's body responded to his presence, was the growing certainty that everything he thought he knew about himself might be wrong. 5 weeks in, Liam came home from the office to find Theo on the couch with another guy. They weren't doing anything inappropriate, just sitting there watching TV, beers in hand. But something about the easy familiarity between them, the way the other guy was sprawled comfortably in Theo's space, made Liam's stomach twist with an emotion he absolutely refused to identify as jealousy. "Hey," Theo said, looking up. "This is Brian, work buddy. Brian, this is Liam, my roommate." Brian was good-looking in a conventional way, blonde hair, easy smile, athletic build. He raised his beer in greeting. "Nice to meet you, man. Theo's been telling me about you. All good things, I hope," Liam said, forcing a smile. "Mostly," Brian joked, and Theo shoved his shoulder. Liam retreated to his room, telling himself he wasn't running away, wasn't avoiding whatever was happening in the living room. He put on headphones and cranked music loud enough to drown out the sound of their laughter, and tried very hard not to imagine what else Theo might have told Brian about him. Brian left around 9, and Liam heard the door close, heard Theo moving around the apartment. A few minutes later, there was a knock on his door. "You can come out now," Theo called. "He's gone." Liam pulled off his headphones, face burning. "I wasn't hiding. Sure you weren't." Theo's voice carried a note of amusement. "Come on, I ordered pizza." Against his better judgment, Liam opened the door. Theo stood in the hallway, and even in the dim light, Liam could see something knowing in his expression. They ate pizza in the living room, and Liam tried to act normal, tried to pretend the sight of Brian on their couch hadn't sent him spiraling, but Theo kept watching him with those perceptive eyes, and Liam knew he wasn't fooling anyone. "He's not my boyfriend," Theo said suddenly. "Brian, in case you were wondering." "I wasn't," Liam lied reflexively. "It's none of my business anyway." Theo's lips quirked in what might have been a smile. "Right, none of your business." The way he said it made Liam's chest tight. Like Theo saw right through him. Saw every lie Liam had been telling himself for the past month and a half. "I should get some sleep," Liam said, standing abruptly. "Early meeting tomorrow." "Liam." The single word, spoken in Theo's deep voice, stopped him cold. He didn't turn around, couldn't face whatever was about to happen. "You know you can't run from this forever, right?" Liam's hands clenched at his sides. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah," Theo said softly. "You do." But he didn't push, and Liam escaped to his room with his heart hammering and his mind racing. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Theo's words echoing in his head. You can't run from this forever, but Liam was going to try. 6 weeks in, the dam finally cracked. It was a Friday night, and both of them were home with no plans. They'd fallen into a comfortable routine of ordering takeout and watching movies on Friday nights, something that felt dangerously domestic, but that Liam couldn't bring himself to stop. They were halfway through an action movie, sitting on opposite ends of the couch, when Theo's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "Sorry, I need to take this." He went into his room, and Liam tried to focus on the movie, but he could hear the murmur of Theo's voice through the walls. The conversation seemed to be getting heated, Theo's tone sharp in a way Liam had never heard before. When Theo emerged 15 minutes later, his jaw was tight and his eyes stormy. "Everything okay?" Liam asked carefully. "Fine." Theo's voice was clipped. "Just my dad being his usual charming self." Liam waited, but Theo didn't elaborate. Instead, he grabbed a beer from the fridge and returned to the couch, his entire body radiating tension. They tried to watch the rest of the movie, but Theo's mood had shifted completely. He sat rigid, his hand gripping the beer bottle too tight, his eyes fixed on the screen, but clearly not seeing it. "You want to talk about it?" Liam offered quietly. "Not really." "Okay." But 5 minutes later, Theo spoke anyway, his voice low and bitter. "He called to tell me I'm wasting my life. That construction work is beneath me, that I should be doing something more respectable. Then he mentioned he ran into my ex, and what a shame it was that I threw away such a good thing." Liam's chest tightened with sympathy. "I'm sorry." Theo laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Best part is, he doesn't even know the real reason we broke up. Doesn't know that she left because she couldn't handle who I really am." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Liam's heart rate kicked up as his brain started connecting dots he'd been trying to ignore. "What do you mean?" The question came out barely above a whisper. Theo finally looked at him, really looked at him, and Liam saw something raw and vulnerable in his eyes that made his breath catch. "I mean, she wanted me to pretend. Wanted me to hide the parts of myself that made her uncomfortable. And I did for a while because I thought that's what you were supposed to do, but eventually I couldn't anymore." Liam's mouth went dry. "What parts?" Theo held his gaze, and Liam saw the moment he made a decision, the part that's attracted to men, the part that always has been, even when I tried to convince myself otherwise. The world tilted sideways. Liam heard the words, understood them on an intellectual level, but his brain struggled to process what they meant. What they changed? "Oh," he managed. "Yeah." Theo took a long drink of his beer. "Oh. My ex was fine with it as long as I never acted on it, as long as I stayed firmly in the closet and pretended to be something I wasn't. My dad still doesn't know, because telling him would mean admitting I'm not the son he wants me to be." "I'm sorry," Liam said again, because he didn't know what else to say. "Don't be. I'm better off without people who can't accept all of me." Theo's eyes found his again. "I learned that the hard way." The weight of Theo's gaze was almost unbearable. Liam felt like he was standing on the edge of something, one wrong move away from falling into territory he'd spent 6 weeks trying to avoid. "Why are you telling me this?" His voice came out rough. Theo's smile was sad and knowing. "I think you know why." Liam's chest felt too tight. His hands were shaking. Every carefully constructed wall he'd built around his confusion, his attraction, his growing feelings for his roommate, came crashing down under the weight of Theo's honesty. "I should go to bed," he said, the words barely coherent. "Liam," Theo's voice stopped him before he could stand. "You don't have to run every time this gets real. I'm not running." "Then what do you call it?" Liam didn't have an answer for that. He stood on shaking legs and headed for his room, feeling Theo's eyes on him the entire way. That night, Liam lay in bed with his mind spinning. Theo's confession had shattered something in him, had made it impossible to keep lying to himself about what he'd been feeling. He was attracted to Theo, desperately, overwhelmingly attracted to him. The kind of attraction that made his whole body respond, that consumed his thoughts, that had nothing to do with stress or loneliness, or any of the other excuses he'd been using. And Theo knew, had probably known from the beginning, had been waiting for Liam to figure it out, to stop running, to face the truth about himself. But facing that truth meant admitting that everything he thought he knew about himself was wrong. Meant questioning every relationship he'd ever had, every attraction he'd felt or failed to feel. Meant accepting that at 26, he was only just discovering who he really was. The thought was terrifying. The next morning, Liam woke to the smell of coffee and found Theo in the kitchen making breakfast. They hadn't spoken since last night's conversation, and the tension was thick enough to cut. "Morning," Theo said, his voice carefully neutral. "Morning." Liam poured himself coffee and tried to figure out what to say, how to bridge the gap that had opened between them. But before he could find the words, Theo spoke. "I'm sorry about last night. Didn't mean to dump all that on you. You don't have to apologize." Still, Theo flipped eggs with more focus than the task required. "I know it was a lot." Liam watched him, this man who'd somehow become the center of his world in just 6 weeks, and felt something in his chest give way. "Can I ask you something?" Theo looked up, wariness in his eyes. "Sure. How did you know that you were attracted to men?" Theo studied him for a long moment before answering. "Always knew, I think, even when I was dating women, even when I was engaged. There was always this feeling that something didn't quite fit, that I was performing instead of actually feeling." He plated the eggs and turned to face Liam fully, but I ignored it for years because it was easier than dealing with what it meant. Easier than accepting that I was different, that the life I'd planned wasn't the one I actually wanted. What changed? Met someone who made it impossible to keep lying to myself. Theo's smile was bittersweet, made me feel things I'd never felt before. Made me realize that what I'd been calling love with my ex was just comfort and companionship, not the real thing. Liam's hands tightened around his coffee mug. "And what does the real thing feel like?" Theo's eyes held his, intense and unflinching, like your heart speeds up when they walk in the room, like you notice every detail about them even when you're trying not to, like the thought of them with someone else makes you want to put your fist through a wall. He stepped closer, and Liam's breath caught, like you can't stop thinking about touching them, tasting them, learning every sound they make when they come apart. Like you'd do anything to make them happy, even if it meant keeping your distance because they're not ready to admit what's happening between you. The kitchen felt too small, the air too thick. Liam couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at Theo and feel his entire world realigning. "Theo," he whispered. "Tell me I'm wrong," Theo said quietly. "Tell me you don't feel it too, and I'll back off. I'll be just your roommate, nothing more. But don't lie to me, Liam. Don't lie to yourself." Liam opened his mouth, but no words came out. How could he deny it when Theo had just described exactly what he'd been feeling for weeks? When standing here with Theo looking at him like that made him feel more alive than 4 years with Sarah ever had. "I don't," he started, then stopped. "I can't." "Can't what?" "Can't do this. Can't be this. I'm not. I've never. I don't know how." Theo's expression softened. "You think I knew how the first time? You think any of this comes with a manual? But you're sure? You know who you are?" "Yeah, now I do. After years of lying to myself and everyone else. After losing people I cared about because I was too scared to be honest." Theo's hand came up, not quite touching Liam's face, but close enough that he could feel the warmth. I don't want you to go through that. Don't want you to wake up 10 years from now and realize you wasted all that time being afraid. What if I'm not? Liam's voice cracked. What if I'm wrong about this, about what I'm feeling? Then we figure that out. No pressure, no expectations, just honesty. Liam's laugh was shaky and uncertain. I don't even know where to start with honesty. Start with telling me one true thing. Liam looked at Theo, at his patient expression, at the understanding in his eyes, and felt something break open in his chest. I think about you all the time, he whispered. I notice when you come home, when you leave, what you're wearing, how you smell. I listen for your voice and I watch you when I think you don't see, and his breath hitched. I want things I've never let myself want before. What things? Everything. Liam's eyes burned. I want to know what you taste like. I want to feel your hands on me. I want God. I don't even have words for everything I want. Theo's hand finally made contact, cupping Liam's jaw with a gentleness that made him tremble. That's a start. I'm scared, Liam admitted. I know. Theo's thumb traced his cheekbone. I'm scared too. Of what? You're so sure about everything. Of fucking this up. Of wanting you so much I push too hard and send you running. Of finally having something real and losing it because you can't handle what you're feeling. Liam leaned into the touch despite his fear. I don't know how to do this. We'll figure it out together. Theo's other hand settled on Liam's hip, warm and grounding. But you need to stop running first. Need to stop hiding in your room every time this gets intense. What if I can't stop? Then I'll wait. Theo's smile was soft and devastating. I'm patient, Liam. I can wait as long as you need. But the heat in his eyes suggested his patience had limits. They stood like that for a long moment, Theo's hands on him, the kitchen quiet around them. Liam felt something shift inside him, some final resistance crumbling under the weight of Theo's touch and his own desperate wanting. Kiss me, he whispered before he could stop himself. Theo's eyes darkened. You sure? No. Liam's laugh was shaky. But kiss me anyway. Theo leaned in slowly, giving Liam every chance to change his mind, to pull away. But Liam stayed frozen, his heart hammering, his entire body vibrating with anticipation and terror in equal measure. When their lips finally met, it was nothing like kissing Sarah had been. There was no soft sweetness, no gentle exploration. This was fire and need, and 6 weeks of denied wanting finally given permission. Theo's mouth moved against his, with a hunger that should have terrified him, but instead made him feel powerful, desired, necessary, his hands fisted in Theo's shirt, pulling him closer, desperate for more contact, more pressure, more everything. Theo groaned into his mouth, the sound vibrating through Liam's chest, and his hands tightened on Liam's hip, hard enough to bruise. The edge of the counter dug into Liam's back as Theo crowded him against it, their bodies pressed together from chest to thigh, and Liam felt Theo's response to the kiss, hard and undeniable against his stomach. The evidence of Theo's arousal sent a bolt of heat through him so intense it was almost painful. He gasped, and Theo took advantage, deepening the kiss until Liam couldn't think, couldn't breathe, could only feel. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Liam's mind was spinning. His lips felt swollen, his body alive in ways it never had before, and he could feel the thundering of his heart against his ribs. Theo rested his forehead against Liam's, his hands still on him, grounding and possessive. Still want to run? Liam let out a shaky laugh. Probably should, but you're not going to. No. The admission felt like surrender. I'm not going to. Good. Theo pulled back just enough to look at him, and the intensity in his eyes made Liam's knees weak. Because I'm done holding back, Liam. Done pretending I don't want you. And I think you're done pretending too. His hand slid from Liam's hip to cup him through his jeans, and Liam's hips jerked forward involuntarily, seeking more pressure, more friction, more of Theo's touch. Your mouth says straight, Theo murmured, his voice rough. But this tells a different story. Liam couldn't form words, couldn't do anything but lean into Theo's touch and try to remember how to breathe. This was happening. This was real, and he wanted it more than he'd ever wanted anything. Bedroom, he managed. Please. Theo's smile was wicked and promising. Mine or yours? Yours. They barely made it down the hall. Theo pushed Liam against the wall outside his room, kissing him with renewed intensity, hands roaming everywhere like he was trying to memorize Liam's body through his clothes. Liam kissed back just as desperately, every inhibition burned away by the fire building between them. When they finally stumbled into Theo's room, Liam had just enough presence of mind to register that it was bigger than his, with a massive bed and dark furniture, before Theo was pulling his shirt over his head and then reaching for his own. The sight of Theo's bare chest, all those muscles he'd been trying not to notice for weeks, made Liam's mouth go dry. He reached out before he could stop himself, palms flat against heated skin, feeling the rapid beat of Theo's heart under his hands. Theo's eyes fell closed, his chest rising and falling with harsh breaths. "You have no idea how many times I've imagined you touching me." "Tell me," Liam whispered, emboldened by Theo's reaction. "Every time you looked at me, every time we passed in the hallway, every time I heard you in the next room and had to stop myself from coming to you." Theo's eyes opened, blazing with need. "I've wanted you since the day you moved in, Liam. Wanted to strip you down and learn every inch of you. Wanted to make you forget your ex ever existed. Wanted to ruin you for anyone else." The words should have scared him, should have sent him running back to the safety of denial. Instead, they sent liquid heat pooling low in Liam's belly, made him press closer, made him want things he'd never let himself imagine before. "Please," he breathed. "Theo, please." Theo walked him backward to the bed, and Liam went willingly, his body singing with anticipation. When the backs of his knees hit the mattress, he sat, looking up at Theo standing over him, and felt something fundamental shift inside him. This was real, this was happening, and he wanted it with an intensity that terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. Theo's hand cupped his face, thumb tracing his lower lip. "Last chance to change your mind." Liam turned his head, pressing a kiss to Theo's palm. "I don't want to change my mind. I want you." "Then lie back," Theo commanded gently, "and let me show you what you've been missing." Liam lay back on Theo's bed, his heart racing as Theo stood over him with eyes that burned with barely restrained hunger. The reality of what was about to happen hit him all at once. 6 weeks of denial and desire culminating in this moment. Theo moved with deliberate slowness, giving Liam time to process, time to adjust. His hands went to Liam's jeans, fingers working the button free. "You okay?" Liam nodded, not trusting his voice. He'd never been more terrified or more certain of anything in his life. "Need to hear you say it," Theo insisted, his hands pausing. "I'm okay." Liam's voice came out rough. "More than okay, please don't stop." Theo's smile was slow and devastating, not planning on it. He slid Liam's jeans down his legs, taking his boxers with them, and Liam lay there completely exposed for the first time. The vulnerability should have been overwhelming, but Theo's expression, reverent and hungry in equal measure, made him feel powerful instead of weak. "Beautiful," Theo murmured, his hands tracing up Liam's thighs. "Been wanting to see you like this for so long." His mouth followed the path of his hands, and Liam's back arched off the bed at the first touch of Theo's lips on his skin. Every nerve ending felt raw, exposed, more sensitive than he'd ever experienced. When Theo's mouth finally closed around him, Liam cried out, his hands fisting in the sheets. Theo took his time, learning what made Liam gasp, what made him moan, what made his hips jerk, seeking more. The sensations were overwhelming, different from anything Liam had felt before. Not better or worse necessarily, but more intense, more consuming, like every touch was rewriting something fundamental in his brain. "Too much," Liam gasped. "Theo, I can't." "Yes, you can." Theo's voice was rough against his skin. "Let go for me. Stop thinking and just feel." So Liam did. He surrendered to the pleasure building in his core. Let Theo guide him through sensations he'd never allowed himself to imagine. And when he finally fell apart, Theo's name on his lips, it felt like coming home and discovering a new country all at once. Theo gentled him through it, his touches soothing now instead of demanding, bringing Liam down slowly. When Liam finally opened his eyes, Theo was watching him with an expression that made his chest tight. "That was," Liam started, but couldn't find the words. "Just the beginning," Theo promised. His hand cupped Liam's face. "Still with me?" "Yeah." Liam turned his head, pressing a kiss to Theo's palm. "Yeah, I'm with you." Theo stripped off his own jeans, and Liam's breath caught at the sight of him, at the evidence of how much this affected him too. There was something grounding in knowing Theo wanted him just as desperately. "What do you want?" Theo asked, settling beside him on the bed. "What do you need?" Liam considered the question seriously. What did he want? What did he need? The answer came with surprising clarity. "Everything," he said. "I want to know what it feels like. All of it." Theo's eyes darkened. "You sure? We can take this slow. Don't have to do everything tonight." "I'm sure." Liam's hand found Theo's, fingers intertwining. "I've spent 6 weeks being uncertain. Right now, this is the most sure I've been about anything." Theo kissed him then, slow and deep and thorough. And Liam poured everything he couldn't say into the kiss. Every fear he was choosing to face, every want he was finally admitting, every piece of himself he was offering up. When they finally came together, when Theo moved above him with care and patience and an intensity that stole his breath, Liam understood what had been missing from every encounter he'd had before. This connection, this rightness, this feeling of being exactly where he was supposed to be. The physical sensations were almost secondary to the emotional intimacy of it. The way Theo watched his face, checking in without words, adjusting based on every gasp and sigh. The way their bodies learned each other, finding a rhythm that was uniquely theirs. The way it felt like something fundamental was shifting inside Liam. Pieces of himself he hadn't known were misaligned, finally clicking into place. "Look at me," Theo commanded gently, and Liam's eyes flew open to meet his. "Stay with me. I want to see you." So Liam kept his eyes open. Let Theo see every emotion crossing his face, every moment of pleasure and vulnerability, an overwhelming sensation. Let himself be completely seen for maybe the first time in his life. When Theo's hand wrapped around him, stroking in time with his movements, the dual sensations sent Liam spiraling over the edge again. He came with Theo's name breaking from his throat, his vision whiting out, every muscle in his body tensing and releasing all at once. Theo followed moments later, Liam's name a prayer on his lips, and the feeling of it, of being claimed and cherished and wanted so completely, was almost more overwhelming than the physical pleasure. They collapsed together, breathing hard, sweat cooling on their skin. Theo pulled Liam against his chest, arms wrapping around him with a possessiveness that should have felt stifling, but instead felt like safety. "You okay?" Theo asked after their breathing had slowed. Liam took inventory. His body ached in new ways. His mind was still trying to process what had just happened, and every assumption he'd built his life on felt like it was being reconstructed from the ground up. "Yeah," he said. "I think I am." "No regrets?" "No." The truth of it surprised him. "No regrets." Theo's arms tightened around him. "Good, because I'm not letting you run away from this. From us. Us." The word settled into Liam's chest, heavy and warm. There was an us now. Everything had changed. They lay like that for a long time. Theo's fingers tracing patterns on Liam's skin, neither of them ready to break the bubble of intimacy they'd created. Eventually, Theo spoke. "What are you thinking?" "That I've been lying to myself for a long time," Liam admitted. "That I maybe never really wanted what I thought I wanted." "What did you think you wanted?" "The normal thing. Marriage to a woman, kids eventually. The whole suburban dream." Liam's laugh was soft and self-deprecating, but I was never really happy in that relationship. I told myself it was just how relationships were, comfortable but not passionate. I didn't realize I was missing something fundamental. And now I'm terrified and exhilarated, and I have no idea what happens next. Liam turned in Theo's arms to face him. "But I know I want to figure it out. With you." Theo's smile was soft and genuine. "We can take this as slow or as fast as you need. No pressure. What do you want?" Honestly, Theo's hand cupped Liam's face. I want you to move into my room. Want to wake up with you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. Want everyone to know you're mine. The possessive claim should have scared Liam. Instead, it sent warmth flooding through his chest. But I know that's probably too much too fast, Theo continued. So I'll settle for whatever you can give me, even if it's just this, just us figuring things out in private. Liam thought about it, about what he was ready for, what he wanted, what he could handle. The truth was, he had no idea. Everything was too new, too overwhelming. Can we start with tonight? He asked. Just stay here with you tonight, and tomorrow we figure out what comes next. Tonight's a good start. Theo kissed him gently. And Liam? There's no rush. We have all the time in the world. They eventually got up to shower, and Liam discovered that sharing the small space with Theo was its own kind of intimacy. Theo washed his hair with careful fingers, and Liam traced the scars on Theo's body, learning the stories written on his skin. Back in bed, clean and exhausted, Liam curled into Theo's side like it was the most natural thing in the world. And maybe it was. Maybe this was what he'd been missing his whole life without knowing it. Sleep claimed him with Theo's heartbeat steady under his ear, and for the first time in months, he slept through the night without nightmares about his failed engagement or fears about his future. Liam woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Theo's arm heavy around his waist. For a moment, he panicked, his mind scrambling to orient himself. Then memory flooded back, and with it came a complicated mix of emotions. He'd slept with his roommate, his male roommate, had wanted it, initiated it, participated enthusiastically, had felt things he'd never felt with Sarah in 4 years together. The panic started to build, familiar and overwhelming. What had he done? What did this mean? Was he gay now? Had he always been gay? How did this change everything? Theo's arm tightened around him. I can hear you thinking from here. Liam stiffened. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. Don't apologize. Theo's voice was still rough from sleep. But also don't spiral. Whatever you're thinking right now, we can talk about it. I don't know what I'm thinking. Liam's laugh was shaky. I don't know anything right now. Theo shifted, propping himself up on one elbow, to look down at Liam. His hair was messy from sleep, his eyes soft with understanding. Okay, let's start simple. Do you regret last night? Liam thought about it honestly. Regret? No. The memory of Theo's hands on him, of the way he'd felt when they came together, sent heat through his body even now. But I'm scared. Of what? Everything. Liam's hands twisted in the sheet. Of what this means about me, about who I am, of telling people, of my family finding out, of not knowing how to be this person. Theo's hand settled over his, still in the nervous movement. Those are all valid fears. But let me ask you something. When you were with me last night, did it feel wrong? No. Did it feel like you were pretending or forcing yourself? No. It felt... Liam's breath caught. It felt more right than anything ever has. Then maybe that's all you need to know right now. Theo's thumb traced circles on the back of his hand. You don't have to have everything figured out today. Don't have to label yourself or come out or make any big decisions. Just take it one day at a time. What if I'm not good at this? Liam's voice was small. What if I don't know how to be with a man? You seemed to figure it out pretty well last night. Theo's smile was warm and teasing. But seriously, Liam, there's no rule book. We make this whatever we want it to be. What do you want it to be? I want you, however I can have you. Theo's honesty was devastating in its simplicity. If you need to keep this private while you figure yourself out, I understand. If you need to take things slow, I can do that. I just need to know you're not going to run away every time this gets hard. I'm trying not to. That's all I ask. Just keep trying. They stayed in bed talking for another hour, Theo patient with every question, every fear, every moment of panic. And slowly, Liam felt some of his anxiety ease. This didn't have to be a crisis. It could just be a discovery, a new understanding of himself that he explored at his own pace. Eventually, they got up and made breakfast together, and it felt surprisingly normal. They moved around the kitchen in comfortable synchronization, and when Theo pressed a kiss to Liam's temple in passing, it felt natural rather than shocking. But the reality of their situation couldn't be avoided forever. They had lives outside this apartment, friends and family who would notice changes, co-workers who might ask questions. "I have dinner with my sister tonight," Liam said as they ate. "She's been asking about the new living situation. What are you going to tell her?" Liam considered. "The truth? That I have a great roommate, the place is working out well. Nothing more than that. Is that okay?" "Of course." Theo's smile was understanding. "You tell people when you're ready, not before." But something in Liam rebelled at the idea of hiding, of pretending last night hadn't happened, hadn't meant anything. What if I don't want to hide it completely? Theo's eyes widened slightly. "What do you mean?" I don't know if I'm ready to announce I'm dating my roommate to my whole family, but maybe I could mention that something's changing, that I'm figuring some things out. Only if you're ready. No pressure from me." Liam thought about his sister Emma. She'd always been supportive, always accepted him as he was. If there was anyone he could be honest with, it was her. "I think I want to tell her something. Want to tell, not everything, but something." Theo reached across the table, taking his hand. "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For being brave, for not running, for choosing honesty even when it's scary." The words settled warm in Liam's chest, giving him strength he hadn't known he needed. That evening, Liam met Emma at their usual restaurant. She was already there when he arrived, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, her expression curious. "So," she said, after they'd ordered, "how's the new place? Roommate working out?" Liam took a breath. "It's good. Really good, actually." Emma studied him. "There's something different about you. Is there?" "Yeah. You seem, I don't know, lighter somehow. Less stressed than you've been since the breakup." Liam played with his water glass. "Can I tell you something? And can you promise not to freak out?" Emma leaned forward, concern creasing her forehead. "Of course. What's going on?" "I think I'm figuring some things out about myself, about what I want, what I've always wanted but was too scared to admit." Emma waited, patient as always. "The roommate, Theo. Something's happening between us. Something that's making me question everything I thought I knew about myself." Understanding dawned in Emma's eyes. "Okay. That's it? Just okay?" "Liam, I love you. And I've watched you be miserable in that relationship with Sarah for years. Watched you go through the motions without ever really being happy." Emma reached across the table, squeezing his hand. "If this guy makes you happy, if being with him feels right, then I'm happy for you. You don't think it's weird that I was engaged to a woman 6 months ago and now I'm with a man? I think sexuality is more complicated than people want to admit, and I think you've probably been struggling with this longer than 6 months." Liam's eyes burned. "How did you know?" "I didn't know specifically, but I've always wondered if you were forcing yourself to fit into a mold that didn't really fit." Emma's smile was gentle. "I'm just glad you're finally letting yourself be honest. I'm terrified. That's normal. But terror means you're doing something that matters." They talked through dinner, Emma asking careful questions, Liam answering as honestly as he could. It felt good to say it all out loud, to have someone know and accept him without judgment. "So what happens now?" Emma asked as they finished their meal. "I have no idea." Liam laughed. "We're taking it day by day, figuring out what this is between us. You really like him, don't you?" "Yeah." Liam couldn't stop the smile that crossed his face. "I really do." "Then that's all that matters." When Liam returned to the apartment that night, Theo was on the couch watching TV. He looked up as Liam entered, his expression carefully neutral. "How'd it go?" Liam crossed to the couch and sat down next to Theo, close enough to touch but not quite making contact. "I told her. Not everything, but enough." "Yeah? How'd she take it?" "She was amazing. Said she just wants me to be happy." Theo's arm came around his shoulders, pulling him close. Smart woman. Liam leaned into him, letting himself relax into Theo's warmth. I was so scared, but it felt good to be honest. They sat like that, comfortable in the silence, until Liam shifted to look up at Theo. Can I ask you something? Anything. When you came out, how did your family react? Theo's expression tightened. I didn't exactly come out by choice. My ex outed me to my mother in a fit of rage after we broke up. My mom told my dad, and it's been complicated ever since. I'm sorry. My mom tries. She really does. She's not comfortable with it, but she loves me enough to try. Theo's jaw clenched. My dad, though, he acts like it's a phase I'll grow out of. Keeps mentioning women he thinks I should date, ignores any mention of men I'm seeing. That must be hard. It is. But I've learned I can't live my life for his approval. Can't hide who I am to make him comfortable. Liam thought about that, about what it would mean to live openly, to be honest about who he was and what he wanted. The idea was both terrifying and appealing. I'm not ready to tell my parents yet, he said. I need more time to figure this out myself first. That's okay. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here. Liam kissed him then, soft and grateful. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for taking the chance. They stayed up late talking, learning more about each other's histories, sharing stories and fears and hopes. And when they finally went to bed, it was to Theo's room, to the bed they'd shared the night before. Making love the second time was different, less desperate, more exploratory. Theo taught Liam what he liked, showed him how to touch, how to use his mouth, how to take pleasure as well as give it, and Liam proved to be an eager student, learning quickly, surprising Theo with his intuition. Afterward, tangled together in the dark, Theo spoke quietly. I know you're still figuring things out, still deciding what you're comfortable with. But I need you to know something. What? I'm falling for you. Maybe already fell for you weeks ago. Theo's arms tightened around him. This isn't just physical for me. It's never been just physical. Liam's chest felt too full to breathe. I think I'm falling for you too. It scares me how much. Fear's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it means something matters enough to be scary. Liam turned in his arms, needing to see Theo's face in the dim light filtering through the window. I don't know how to do this. Don't know how to be in a relationship with a man, how to navigate what this means. We figure it out together. Theo kissed him softly. And Liam, there's no rush. We have all the time we need. The weeks that followed brought their own challenges. Liam had to learn to be comfortable with himself, with what his attraction to Theo meant about his identity. He read articles, joined online forums, talked to Emma when he needed perspective. Theo was patient through all of it. Patient when Liam pulled away in public, when he panicked about being seen together, when he needed space to process. But he was also firm about certain boundaries. He wouldn't hide in the apartment, wouldn't pretend to be just roommates when it was clear they were more. They found compromises. They were affectionate at home but kept things platonic in public. They told close friends on a case-by-case basis. Liam getting more comfortable with each conversation. They took it slow physically, Theo letting Liam set the pace. But slowly, Liam found his footing, found that being with Theo felt more natural than forcing himself to be attracted to women ever had, found that the more he accepted this part of himself, the happier he became. 2 months after that first night, Liam officially moved into Theo's room. His old room became an office, a space for his graphic design work. The transition felt monumental and utterly natural all at once. 3 months in, Liam told his parents over a carefully worded phone call. They didn't take it well, his mother crying, his father going silent. But Emma's support helped him weather their disappointment, and Theo held him through the worst of the emotional fallout. We'll give them time, Emma advised. They'll come around eventually, and if they don't, that's their loss. 4 months in, Liam realized he'd stopped counting time, stopped marking progress. He just lived, day by day, building a life with Theo that felt real and right and wholly his own. They fell into routines that were domestic and sweet. Theo would wake Liam with coffee and kisses. Liam would have dinner ready when Theo came home from work. They'd curl up on the couch in the evenings, Theo reading while Liam sketched, comfortable in each other's presence. The physical side of their relationship evolved too. What had started as overwhelming and new became familiar and deeply satisfying. They learned each other's bodies with patient thoroughness, discovering what brought the most pleasure, what made them both come undone. One night, 6 months after that first kiss in the kitchen, Liam lay in Theo's arms feeling more content than he'd ever been. "What are you thinking about?" Theo asked, his fingers tracing patterns on Liam's bare shoulder. "How different my life is from 6 months ago. How much I've changed. Regret any of it? Not even a little." Liam propped himself up to look at Theo. "That day I answered your ad. I thought I was just looking for a place to live. Turns out I was looking for a lot more. Yeah, I was looking for myself, for the person I'd been too scared to be." Liam's hand settled over Theo's heart. "For someone who saw me clearly, even when I couldn't see myself." Theo pulled him down into a kiss that was tender and deep. "I love you," he said when they parted. "I know we haven't said it yet, but I do. I love you." Liam's eyes burned with emotion. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me sometimes. Good terrified or bad terrified? Good. Definitely good." They made love slowly that night, savoring every touch, every kiss, every moment of connection. And when they finally fell asleep tangled together, Liam felt a peace he'd never known. The next morning, Liam woke before Theo for once. He lay watching the man who'd changed his life, who'd seen something in him worth waiting for, worth fighting for. Theo's face was relaxed in sleep, his dark hair messy, one arm thrown over his head. Liam thought about the scared man who'd moved in 6 months ago, who'd been running from a failed relationship and from himself, who'd been so determined to be straight that he'd ignored every sign pointing to a different truth. That man was gone now, replaced by someone who knew himself better, who'd learned that love came in forms he'd never expected, who'd discovered that being honest, even when it was terrifying, was worth it. Theo's eyes opened, immediately finding Liam's. "Morning," he rumbled. "Morning," Liam replied, leaning in for a soft kiss. "What's that look for?" "Just thinking about how lucky I am." Theo's smile was warm and knowing. "Pretty sure I'm the lucky one. You could have run so many times. Could have let fear win. But I didn't. Because you didn't let me. We didn't let each other." Theo pulled him close. That's what partnership is. They got up and started their day, moving through their morning routine with the ease of long practice. But before Theo left for work, he pulled Liam in for a long, thorough kiss. "Love you," he said against Liam's mouth. "Love you too." When the door closed behind Theo, Liam stood in the apartment, in the home they'd built together, and felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for that first moment of courage when he'd answered Theo's ad. Gratitude for Theo's patience as he'd figured himself out. Gratitude for Emma's support and for every person who'd accepted him as he was. But mostly, he was grateful for himself. For having the courage to stop running, to face his fears, to choose honesty even when it meant upending his entire life. His phone buzzed with a text from Theo. "Already miss you." Liam smiled and typed back, "Come home soon." And he would. Theo always came home. That was the best part of building a life together, the knowing that no matter what happened during the day, they'd come back to each other at the end of it. Liam settled at his desk to start work, but his mind kept drifting to the journey that had brought him here. From that first electric moment when Theo had opened the door, to the weeks of denial and wanting, to the night everything changed. He'd been so sure he knew who he was, so certain of the path his life would take. Engagement, marriage, kids, the whole predetermined script he'd been following since he was old enough to understand what was expected of him. But Theo had shown him there was another way, that he could write his own script, make his own choices, define happiness on his own terms. That afternoon, Liam's phone rang. His mother. He hesitated, then answered, "Hi, Mom. Liam." Her voice was careful. "How are you?" "I'm good. Really good." There was a long pause. "Your father and I have been talking about what you told us." Liam's stomach clenched. "Okay. We don't understand it. I won't pretend we do. But Emma helped us see that we were more concerned with what other people would think than with your happiness." Tears pricked Liam's eyes. "Mom, we'd like to meet him. Theo, if you're willing." The offer was so unexpected that Liam couldn't speak for a moment. "You want to meet him? We want to know the person who makes our son happy, even if it's not what we expected." It wasn't acceptance, not fully, but it was a start. And after months of his parents barely speaking to him, it felt like a miracle. "Thank you," Liam managed. "That means everything." When Theo came home that evening, Liam met him at the door with the news. Theo's face went through a series of emotions before landing on cautious hope. "You sure you're ready for that?" "No," Liam admitted. "But I want them to know you, want them to see what I see. And what's that? That you're the best thing that ever happened to me." Theo pulled him into a fierce hug. "We'll figure it out together." The dinner with Liam's parents 2 weeks later was awkward and tense. His mother was overly polite, his father barely spoke, but Theo handled it with grace, answering their questions honestly, showing them through his actions how much he cared for their son. By the end of the evening, his mother was smiling more naturally, and his father had almost relaxed. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. In the car on the way home, Theo reached over and took Liam's hand. "You did good tonight." "We did good," Liam corrected. "Thank you for being patient with them. They're your family." "I'll be as patient as it takes." That night, wrapped in Theo's arms, Liam reflected on how far he'd come. From the scared man who'd moved in, thinking he was just looking for a place to live, to someone who'd found home in the most unexpected place. His phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Mom called. Said dinner went well. "Proud of you, little brother." Liam smiled and typed back. "Couldn't have done it without you." The months continued to pass, bringing small victories and occasional setbacks. Liam's parents slowly warmed to Theo, his mother even inviting them both to family dinner. His father took longer, but eventually thawed enough to ask Theo about his construction work, to treat him with grudging respect. Liam came out to more people. Friends from college, co-workers, neighbors. Each time got easier, especially with Theo by his side, steady and supportive. A year after moving in, they hosted a dinner party at the apartment. Emma and her husband, a few of Theo's friends from work, some of Liam's designer colleagues. It was the first time they'd entertained as a couple, and watching everyone mingle in their home, Liam felt a surge of pride. This was their life. Open, honest, exactly what they'd built together. Late that night, after everyone had left and they were cleaning up, Theo pulled Liam into a dance in the middle of the kitchen. No music playing. "What are you doing?" Liam laughed. "Celebrating." "What are we celebrating?" "A year. A year since you moved in and changed my entire world. You changed mine too." Theo kissed him softly. "I know moving in was just supposed to be about finding a place to live, but I'm glad it became more." "Me too." Liam rested his head on Theo's shoulder. "I'm so glad I answered your ad. Best decision you ever made." "Second best," Liam corrected. "Best decision was choosing to stop running, choosing to be honest about what I wanted. What do you want now? This, you, us." Liam pulled back to look at Theo. "For as long as you'll have me." "How does forever sound?" "Perfect. It sounds perfect." They swayed in the kitchen, wrapped around each other, and Liam thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The fear and courage, the lies and truth, the running and choosing to stay. His old life felt like a story about someone else now. The engagement to Sarah, the desperate need to fit into expectations that had never suited him, the years of going through motions without ever really living. This was living. This honesty, this love, this partnership built on seeing and being seen. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The challenges and joys, The ordinary days and extraordinary moments. Together. And Liam couldn't imagine anything better than that.